I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of you before. If you don't know, I'm from Atlanta. We like Atlanta. We don't like the Super Bowl. Don't talk to me about that. One of the things that's pretty prevalent in Atlanta is a breakfast place called IHOP, International House of Pancakes. Their slogan is "Come hungry, leave happy." We're well on our way to doing that tonight. But as we all know, the real reason why we're here to celebrate a lot of things. But the real reason why we're here is to honor some wonderful people and groups, to celebrate a tremendous cause, and of course, to have a great time. So before we begin, I just want to take a moment to view this short clip we put together, which hopefully will give you a glimpse of why we're all here tonight, what the Kollel does. If you know it, it's a refresher. If you don't know, please take a look and enjoy. If you didn't catch a couple of those programs, feel free to call me. I'll let you know what they are and all the more that we have to offer. I'm not going to talk long tonight. I'm just going to be your MC, your guide, and let you know what to expect and who's coming up next. And I hope I do a good enough job. But I do have to thank a couple of people. Firstly, I'd like to thank the leader of the entire Kollel, the dean, the person who sets the tone for everything that happens in the Kollel, and me personally, Rabbi Gibber. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Also, a special mention to our new member of the administration in the Kollel who came last year. Tremendous energy, tremendous source of excitement and exuberance for the Kollel. Rabbi Lowinger and Mrs. Lowinger, thank you so much. To all the Kollel families, I'm tremendously grateful to be able to be your friends, to consider you my friends. Thank you for all that you do. It's a great group to be part of. Thank you so much for coming. Of course, we have the Kollel board members. Without them, pretty much nothing gets done. When I have a bad idea, you're there to tell me it's a bad idea, and I really, really appreciate that. It's very worthwhile. Thank you very much. As anybody who knows anything about what goes on in the Kollel, I barely do anything. I just tell Adam Crystal what to do, and he makes sure it gets done. Thank you very much, Adam. A couple of people who were very instrumental in helping tonight's event, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Jaffa, for making the food as amazing as it was, because believe me, if I would have been the one setting the menu, it would not have been as good. Thank you very much. Mrs. Remy Delmore for taking care of the entire art show, the art exhibit, which you got a glimpse of. You'll get more of a chance to see it later, to peruse and see some of the art and perhaps purchase it. The Kollel does get a percentage of everything you purchase, so that's my little plug there. Thank you very much, Mrs. Delmore, for setting that all up. Mrs. Byron, one of the new Kollel family's wives, thank you so much for taking care of the decor in the reception room. I know it was a lot of work. Mrs. Hayi Pergamon, who helped you out, as well as Mrs. Smith, thank you so much for everything that you do. And then, of course, my wife. You're here somewhere, I know, because the kids are with a babysitter. Let's just say you've held up your end and my end for the past month, probably. I will be back home, hopefully tonight, and life will return to somewhat normal. Thank you very much. You see the words on the screen, timeless contemporary. Let me tell you what that means very briefly. In today's world, it's hard to know who or what to trust. What we may call the information age often seems like an age of misinformation. The increasingly clever and intrusive tools of storytelling leave anyone seeking truth in a swirl of facts, news, and opinions from multiple, conflicting, but always compelling viewpoints. At best, this leaves us with plenty of facts, but no more wisdom. And at worst, it spawns a cynical attitude towards all conviction and discourages further exploration. Wouldn't it be nice if there was one source we can trust? A source that was steady, time-tested, yet relevant and insightful. Luckily, as Jews, we have that source, the Torah. Tonight's theme is timeless contemporary. These two words often don't go together, but when it comes to the Torah, they absolutely do. The Torah is timeless. It's been around for thousands of years. Yet it's as relevant to our lives today as ever before. Tonight we'll experience the Torah through stories, art, and inspiration. It is our hope that this evening will inspire and entertain and connect us with the Torah, that treasure which we all share. Now please rise in honor of the Torah for the Rosh Kollel, Harav Chaim Simcha Gibber.
Distinguished Rabbanim, Rabbi Chesel Greenberg, Rabbi Mordechai Kalatsky, Rabbi Avigdor Goldberg, Rabbi Nahal, thank you for everything that you do for the Kollel and for me personally, and thank you for everything you did to make this evening a magnificent evening. The distinguished Rosh Chabura, as was mentioned, Harav Agon Rabbi Yosef Lowinger joined the Kollel this year. He's both brilliant and indefatigable, and he brings an enormous amount of electricity into the base matters. Distinguished Chavei Kollel, members of the Kollel, including the 5 new members, unusual Yungalite who joins us this year, and the esteemed Neshei Kollel, the wives of the Kollel rabbis who are partners in everything that happens in the Kollel and beyond, and my own wife, who deserves so much credit for everything that I do, and she deserves credit for everything that happens in the community, actually. For mostly everything that happens in the community. My Rabbi and Mrs. Aryeh Cohn, who through their incredible work as the director and workers in the young adults outreach divisions, they have done enormous good work. Rabbi Adil Reuven Crystal, Director of Operations and Finance, thank you for all that you did to make this evening's event possible. Distinguished honorees, Rabbi Rothstein and the Kiyum Masechta Chabura. Rabbi Rothstein in his own right is the Learning and Development Coordinator of the Kollel. The firm of Seiler and Schindel and Roman Pesakovich, the distinguished guest artist Rabbi Yonah Weinrib, who I happen to know for over 50 years, dating all the way back to Hartford, Connecticut, and to all our distinguished guests, welcome, and we hope they will enjoy the evening. and Kol HaKol HaKadosh Hazeh. Our tonight's theme is timeless and contemporary. This past week, Jews all over the world celebrated the holiday of Shavuos. The holiday of Shavuos is perhaps, arguably, the most important holiday on the Jewish calendar. It marks a historic event that took place as the Jews left Egypt and stood at the foot of Mount Sinai when God appeared to them and communicated to them and told them and gave them the Aseres HaDibros, loosely translated as the Ten Commandments, and thus began the giving and the receiving of the Torah. It was such a historic event, unique in the annals of world history, that the Torah itself tells us and engages us and challenges us to investigate, to explore, to research. And has there ever been another event quite the same as this one? And the Torah tells us in Parshas Vayeschanan that Sha'alno l'yom rishonim, go back to the beginning of time, from the time that God created man on the earth, from one end of the world to the other end of the world. Has there ever been a nation that God appeared to them and spoke to them as he has to you? So truly, this event is a unique event. It's one of a kind, the only one of its kind. And this is what we mark on the holiday of Shavuos. Shavuos is a time that defines us as a people, because he revealed to us his will, he revealed to us his word. And that is the message that indeed defines us as the Jewish people. And if there's one holiday that can be linked to the mission statement of the Kollel more than any other one, that would be Shavuos. Because our mission statement indeed is to study Torah and teach Torah. However, it appears that even though Shavuos is the most important of all the holidays, it is the one that is least observed in the broader community. Not only is it least observed, but it is, to many, an unknown. There are many Jews who don't even know that last week was Shavuos. Yom Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Sukkot, Chanukah, Purim, everyone knows those. But not everybody is aware of Shavuos. And yet its message is the message that really defines us as a people. And that message is that we have a Torah. We have a Torah that we must study and we must practice. Unfortunately, in the general community and in general, there's a lack of awareness as to the scope and the magnitude of that Torah. How immense it is, how vast it is. And there are many people who think that the knowledge that they received as youngsters, as little children in grade school, the Bible stories, the lessons they learned, was really the basis of and fundamental part of the entire Torah. That's it. However, I see all the time people coming into the Kollel are astounded that when they discover that that entire libraries are needed to contain the literature of our tradition. There are thousands of volumes, and it's a vast, vast tradition. I would like to share with you a story that happened a number of years ago in Israel. There was a symposium of science and religion, and there were noted scientists who were present, and there were noted Torah scholars that were present. And there was an exchange of ideas. And one of the scientists, who happened to be an astronomer, got up to deliver his lecture, and he prefaced his remarks by saying that I am not a religious person. And I have never studied religion. But I imagine if I were to encapsulate, to sum up, to distill all of religion into one sentence, this is the way it would go. Do not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is it. That's it. Now, truth be told, and in the interest of full disclosure, that statement is a statement that was made by Hillel in the Talmud. A Gentile came to Hillel and said, I agreed to convert to become a Jew, but only on one condition. if you are capable of teaching me the entire Torah as I stand on one foot. And Hillel responded to him, Madasani Allah l'chavecha. That which is hated unto you, you should not do to anyone else. Do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. And Idach Perusha, everything else is commentary on that. Zeal, Gemara, go and learn it. So on the one hand, it sounds like what our astronomer said is the same thing as what Hillel said, but really it's very different. What Hillel said is that this is the basis, but you need to go and explore it and understand it. And Rashi says, what does that mean? And how is this indeed? How does this encapsulate the entire Torah? So Rashi at that point explains that just as a person does not want that others should do certain things to him, and one of the things he doesn't want is that people should ignore him, so too, don't ignore other people. And therefore, apply that to God. Apply that to Hashem. Don't ignore Hashem. And if He conveyed to you or revealed to you His will, don't ignore that will. So therefore, with this principle, indeed, you encapsulate the whole Torah because you don't want to ignore the will of God. So you will therefore go and find out what His will is and practice that will. Our astronomer, I believe, had no idea what Rashi said on that statement. He meant it in the most simple and elementary way possible. This is what religion is. A little while later in the same symposium, there was a Rabbi Lefson who got up. Rabbi Lefson is the founder and the dean of the Neve Yerushalayim women's colleges and seminaries, which is in the Har Hanof section of Yerushalayim of Jerusalem. A noted scholar. He got up, and before he presented his lecture, his papers, he said, I too would like to preface my remarks with a statement. I have never studied astronomy, and I am not an astronomist. But I think that if we could take all of astronomy and encapsulate it, and sum it up, and distill it into one simple sentence, that sentence would be, twinkle, twinkle, little star. The point of the story is that there is great knowledge that is contained in many different areas, in many different places. When we stand on the outside, we don't realize how much is inside. If a person is not an astronomer, hasn't studied astronomy, he has no clue, he has no idea what's really the vastness of the science. But by the very same token, someone who has not studied Judaism, Yiddishkeit, that has also no clue as to what's contained within it. And the vastness and the greatness and the enormity of what is contained within our Jewish literature is beyond description. The Torah is Hashem's revealed wisdom. As such, by definition, it has to be limitless, and it cannot be simple, because God is not simple, and His wisdom is not simple. And God is limitless, so His wisdom is limitless. And throughout the centuries, the oral law, the Talmud, the codes, the classic works of the Rishonim period, the Achronim period, we have a repository of thousands of works from the masters of every century that have come down to us in our times, which are learned and studied in every Beis Medrash, in every yeshiva in the world. I would like to share with you another story. And this is something that Rabbi Shmuel Dishon, a noted scholar, a noted lecturer, who goes all around the world speaking on Jewish topics. He has been here in Minneapolis several times. He is a teacher, I think, but he certainly was a teacher. And at one point, one of his students said to him, as they were discussing a particular topic, and they were explaining Rashi's understanding of that topic. So, just for a moment of explanation, Rashi was one of our greatest scholars, lived in almost 1,000 years ago. His works are as current and contemporary today as they ever were. So this student said to Rabbi Dishon, who was teaching him, he said to him, Rabbi, I don't like Rashi's presentation. I don't like what he says. To which Rabbi Dishon responded. He said, let me tell you a story about a friend of mine who was on a tour in a museum in France. And on that tour, there was a lady who had come, American lady who came, and by the way, I don't know if this story is true or not true, but the point is very poignant and very well taken. There's a woman from America who joined the tour, and it was a tour of the Louvre. The Louvre is the National French Museum of Art. It is the home to priceless pieces of art, sketches, sculpture, from the Renaissance, from the Baroque period. The most exquisite and the most treasured art can be found in that museum. And this woman was an American woman. She was certainly not an art aficionado. She also had no appreciation for art. Actually, she appreciated her grandchildren's art more than she appreciated some of the masters. And to top it off, she was an American, so there was a little bit of irreverence for history, irreverence for culture, and not the same as you would expect from the French nationals. But she was on this tour of the Louvre, and she apparently became bored at a certain point, and she was murmuring to herself about different paintings. Why is this such an important painting? Why is it such a good painting? What makes it so special? What makes it so good? At one point, she said, "My grandchild could have." At that point, the guide of the tour turned to her and said, "Madam, I want you to know something. That when you visit the Louvre, you have to realize that the art in the Louvre is no longer on trial. It was created by the greatest of masters. It was scrutinized and analyzed by the experts throughout the centuries. It has been determined that there are priceless pieces and pieces of exquisite value. They are not on trial anymore. What is here in the Louvre, this is classic. If you don't appreciate it, then it means you don't have an appreciation for art. You haven't studied art. If you'll study art, you'll appreciate it." So Rabbi Dishon turned to his student and said, "Rashi is not on trial. Rashi was the master. His words were analyzed and scrutinized by centuries of the greatest scholars in the Jewish people. What Rashi says, his interpretations are classic. They are not. If you do not appreciate them, so then you need to learn more about our tradition, and then you will appreciate it." We hold in our fingertips, as the Jewish people, a repository of the most profound wisdom that there is. It's all contained in the Torah. It provides us with the guidance to navigate every and any situation and every life experience. It's a moral compass that every one of us so desperately needs. And above us, and above everything else, the Torah elevates us from the mundane and connects us to Hashem, to God, and to eternity. The strength of the Jewish people lies in its connection to Torah. History has taught us that when we are connected, we flourish as a people. When we are disconnected, we begin to disappear. Even the evil monster, Hitler, Yamach Shemo, understood that the secret of the Jewish people and the Jewish survival of the Jewish people is the study of the Torah. He was obsessed with the murdering of people who he referred to as the Talmudic Jews. Those are the ones he was obsessed with killing them because he knew that they contained the secret for Jewish survival. I will end with one short story. I said this several years ago, but I think it bears repeating. Adolf Eichmann was as a monster, was second only to Hitler. He was responsible for the extermination of hundreds of thousands of Jews, perhaps millions of Jews. many family members of every Jewish family, probably. Every Jewish family had members that died. My wife's own grandparents were probably murdered, or the execution was ordered by Eichmann. He ran Auschwitz. After the war, he escaped. He ran away to Argentina. The Israeli Mossad found him in Argentina and brought him to Israel to stand trial. In May of 1962, he was executed. The identity of the executioner remained a secret for 30 years. After 30 years, that information became declassified. And it happened to be a Yemenite Jew of Yemenite extraction, a practicing Jew. And he was then contacted by a German television station that asked him to grant them an interview, and they would like to video him and show him on television. He said, "I'll do it, but with one condition. And that condition is that you come to where I am and film me here and interview me here." They had no choice. They said, "Listen, where was he?" After he retired, he joined the Kollel in Israel. He said, "I want you to come." "I want you to come to my Kollel, where I studied Torah, and I want you to interview me and video me here." So they came and they did it. Afterwards, they asked him, "What was the big deal? Why couldn't you come to our studio? It would have been a much more, an easier place, more comfortable. Why did you insist on doing it here?" So he answered, "Because I want the German people and the world at large to see why we survive as a people. And that is because we studied Torah. This is the secret to our survival." Vani tefillah. As I end, it is my fervent wish and fervent prayer that the holiday of Shavuos, the holiday that marks the giving of the Torah to the Jewish people, that holiday will become once again a most celebrated and cherished holiday for Jews all over the world. And that will happen when Jews will come to recognize that we exist as a people because of the Torah. Thank you.
Yeah, you have to hear another speech from me, sorry. Last night I was driving home from Toronto, which is a 14-hour drive. So I drove through the night, and I got a call from my good friend Rabbi Goldberger. He said, "I forgot to ask you to say a few words." So I had a long time to prepare to introduce Roman, about 13 hours, so everyone get comfortable. We're in for a long, if you need another piece of dessert, I can give you mine. I saved it, but we're in for a long haul. So Roman is the J-Way Student of the Year. So before I speak about him, I like to speak for a moment about what the J-Way means. J-Way, Jewish Way. It's an organization under the auspices of the Kollel. Thank you, Rabbi Goldberger, Rabbi Gibber, and everyone else. We're not doing thank yous again. Run by my wife and myself. Thank you, Adina. That we can do, thank you. We run it for the young professionals and the college students in the community. And the idea is the follows. I heard something actually on the way home from Toronto. When we count Jewish people, if someone ever goes to a synagogue, no one counts, you need a minyan, you need 10 people to daven together. So no one says 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not how we count Jews. We say a verse with 10 words, Hoshias, and whatever the verse is. But we don't count people. Do you know how we're supposed to do a census for the Jews? everyone gives a silver coin. Ze yitnu, everyone should give. So the question is obvious. Why? Why don't we just count people like, dare I say, like normal people do? Just count 1, 2, 3, 4. Why don't we do that with Jews? Why do we do it by every Jew giving a coin? So, I mean, the obvious answer is Jews, money, giving. They're always raising money. I mean, that's the obvious answer, but we're here to say something else tonight. If we count Jews, it's a bit depressing because we're not that many. We're not even 1% of the world population. But if you count Jews according to their accomplishments, Ze Yitnu, what are they giving to the world? Jews give to the world in a magnificent way. That's how we count Jews. We want to make us feel good. We're not counting, let's not focus on the number game. Let's focus on each individual, what they could accomplish, what they can give to the world. That's how we count Jews. That's what gets us excited. Ze Yitnu, how do they give? How do they give? What do they give to the accomplishments to the greater society? In the Jewish world, in the regular world, we do a lot. And that's something we should be proud of. That's something we focus on in the J-Way programs. So, I have to introduce Roman. Sit down. You're not done. So it's interesting, when I first met Roman, or I should say tried to, because he didn't show up to the first meeting, and Igor, yes, I should have known. So I was introduced, they went on some trip, some free trip, you know how it works. They went on some free trip to New York, and then the people from New York said, you should meet these two guys who are nice Russian Jews, from good families, and coming for Shabbos. And then we sort of fell off the map for a few years. But now he's back on. And he's someone that's devoted to the Jewish community, very charitable. He likes to learn most of the time. And he started keeping a lot of Shabbos. I know you just kept Shavuos in Florida, right? Very nice. And he's committed to raising a Jewish family, to marrying a Jew, raising a Jewish family, sending his children to Jewish schools, and sending them to yeshivas, and everything else, right? And his parents are very happy about it, correct? Good. I knew that, just making sure. And this is why he's representing that the Jewish way. Roman realized that it's important to focus, like we said before, what he can contribute. It's not about numbers. What can he contribute to the Jewish community? And that's why we're celebrating Roman Pesakovich tonight. Please come up and deliver your address.
Before we begin, just want to make a presentation to Roman. This is a Tefillah L'Hatzlacha, prayer for success, from Rabbi Yonah Weiner, a sample of art. It says in the bottom, J-Wayer of the Year Award presented to Roman Pesakovich, Minneapolis Community Kollel Annual Dinner, June 4th, 2017. Roman, we wish you much success in everything.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be here today and to be a part of something so special like the Kollel. As we all know, as the rabbi had mentioned, a few days ago we celebrated the holiday of Shavuos. The holiday of Shavuos is when we got the Ten Commandments from God through Moses. This is when we were made to be the nation of God. And that experience that happened many, many years ago is what made me the person that I am today, which is a true Jew. For those of you that don't know, my family immigrated here to the United States in 1994 from Belarus. And in Belarus, where we came from, my family was not allowed to express or act on their Jewish identity. This was so engraved into their minds that when we came here to America, they were still frightened to show the Judaism and everything here, and it was something that we didn't really do when I was growing up here in the United States. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to meet a young, charming man by the name of Rabbi Cohen. Since then, Rabbi Cohen, the entire Kollel, the JWA organization, and everything has helped me grow spiritually, and it's really helped me connect with my Jewish roots. I've gone to Israel. Rabbi Cohen sent me to Israel. I also had an internship in New York City. I even spent Shabbos in Costa Rica a couple of months ago, which was an amazing experience. And the entire organization has showed me a whole side of Judaism that I'd never thought I'd see before. When we were partying in Costa Rica, I also saw a side to Albert Miller that I've never seen before. But I'll save that whole story for another time. From thinking Shabbat was on a Sunday to thinking that I was going to have my bat mitzvah when I turned 16, I like to think that I've came at least a little bit farther in Judaism. And I want to thank all the families here who have opened up their doors for me, who have let me come for Shabbat, who let me eat their amazing food. And then everybody here whose house I've been to, you couldn't have made me feel any more welcome. It showed me what Judaism was really about. And it's just completely changed everything for me. And it was during these Shabbos that I realized how amazing Judaism is and what it means to be a part of the chosen nation that we are. The learning experiences that I've taught from Rabbi Cohen and from everybody, I cherish, and it's something that I want, like he said, I want to teach to my children, and something that I want to have in my future. I'm very thankful that I got to learn all the customs. I was never aware of them, and I look forward to passing them on for many generations to come. And today, Judaism is a very big part of my life. Like Rabbi mentioned, I spend many days this year wrapping tefillin, keeping Shabbat. I even eat the kosher food, which I just realized tastes even better than non-kosher food. And somehow I was even able to convince a beautiful Jewish girl to date me this year. So I owe all of this to the people here, to the Kollel, to the entire JWA organization, to everybody who had me over for Shabbat. From 6-7 years ago when me and Igor had no idea what we were doing to now coming for Shabbat and knowing all you guys. It's just been wonderful, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to being a part of this entire organization for many years to come.
Beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you, Roman. There are many areas of life, our family circle, our friends, and our work environment. Often we have a different set of values at home than we may have in the office. This year, we have the distinct honor of recognizing a firm which operates on values, not on the bottom line. And this is apparent in so many ways. Please turn your attention to the screens as we introduce our Business of Distinction awardees, Seiler Schindel, PLLC.
What I think is probably the most important is my learning of Torah, and particularly through the Kollel, really helped me establish and write down what those core values were. They have always been in here. The Kollel really helped me find them and define them. And the best part of it was, it turned out the people around me shared those values.
On one side, our core values are internal to us. And when we talk about people succeeding or doing well in our firm, we talk about whether they're adhering and reflecting the core values that we have. We want our clients to know who we are. We've been blessed to have the opportunity to be educated and work in this field. Giving back is something we feel we should do.
You know, Scott and John started this firm with certain values and goals in mind, and as the firm's grown, they've made sure to keep those values at top of mind for everybody.
I think you can see Scott's dedication to the practice of law through his faith. You can tell that it's very, very important to him, and he has a great deal of respect and reverence for it. And I think he approaches the law the same way.
In general, everybody here does volunteer at different organizations and provides time and some legal services. It seems like those values have been here longer than we've been formally calling them core values. They run deep here.
Scott is a person, is one of the unique people that spends his life trying to apply Torah values to the way he lives his life every day. Scott and all the lawyers at Seiler Schindel are people you can turn to. But Scott and John, with their leadership on a personal level, I've seen where they focus on what is it that you need, how can we help.
The Seiler Schindel law firm has set a standard locally for businesses and firms. It is well known that there's a standard of honesty, of integrity, of goodness, of kindness, of helpfulness, and those are ideals that are Torah-based. I would like to thank Scott and for the entire firm for opening up their business for all sorts of events, particularly for the Kollel, but for the community in general. We have here lunch seminars, we have women's events, Partners in Torah. They're here to extend a hand and to be open to the community, and that is part of what they want to do.
He's sort of colorblind from the perspective of the different denominations within our community, and he basically has focused in on how to serve the needs of people, estate planning needs, business needs, and he's done that both looking at the halachic ramifications as well as the human ramifications. I've actually never seen someone who's able to combine a set of personal skills with a legal background and bring that together in such an eloquent and seamless way to help people.
It's humbling. We don't do this work for the recognition. We don't do it for awards. This is us. This is our firm. This is our people.
So the fact we're receiving this award shows that others do recognize it, and actually that we're succeeding in getting those values out to others, and we're living what we say we live.
The significance of this award is unique to us because there are a lot of awards for being good attorneys. There's a lot of places we can go to get recognition for what we do. There's a lot of places we can go speak and hear ourselves talk, which is something we like to do a lot as attorneys. This is a recognition not necessarily of our acumen as lawyers. This is a distinction of who we are in the community.
If I can invite the firm, the entire firm, to come join me up here for a presentation, I think we'll fit. Please come up. This beautiful piece is the 13 values of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And how appropriate, it lists 13 values here: truth, fastidiousness, diligence, honor, peace of mind, gentleness, cleanliness, patience, order, humility, righteousness, thrift, and silence. Business of Distinction Award presented to Seiler Schindel PLLC, Minneapolis Community Kollel Annual Dinner, June 4th, 2017. Face the camera.
Wow, wasn't expecting that. Thank you very much. Rabbi Cohen, I feel for you. I got the same call as you did from Rabbi Goldberger, who said, would you please give some very brief comments at the dinner tonight? And the term very brief really isn't in my lexicon, so I will try very hard. Right, not yours either. tell a quick story. I'm not even sure how relevant it is, but question would arise: how does this Jew raised by parents in a Reformed congregation, who's been a member of a Reformed congregation in the Twin Cities, married to a wonderful, wonderful woman whose family has these deep roots in the Reformed congregation, end up standing up with a bunch of guys who wear hats all day long? So here's a story. Can I borrow you? I can. As I recall, I knocked that off last week. Okay. So I received a call several years ago. A gentleman introduced himself as Rabbi Stern. He said, "I'd like to sit down and learn with you." And I said, "Well, great. Here we go. I got the Aish guys calling to learn. I've got the rabbis at base calling to learn. Everyone's calling to learn. And I got a bill. I got things to do." He said, "Well, I got a book I want you to learn with me." And I said, "Yeah, really? Like, I can't figure out which book that is." So he says, "Come to the Kollel." So I come to the Kollel. I walk in the door. I got the magic number to let myself in. I won't share that with anybody. And I walk in. And here it is out of a movie. There's all these people yelling at each other. None of them in English. And Rabbi Stern comes up, and in the middle of this, and anybody who knows Rabbi Stern, and my family's never met him, he's a bear of a man with a big red beard, and he's wearing this giant black cloak, and I just finished reading the 7th book of Harry Potter, and I'm pretty nervous. And he says, "Sit down, Scott, I'm going to take out the book." And again, I know the book, and he surprises me. He takes out Gino Wickman's book, Traction, which Rabbi Kolatsky knows very well, too. Traction is a book about management organization. It's about how to run an organization. It's about how to live in an organization and how to make sure everybody's working in the organization as well as they should. I'll be done in a second. And that's what we studied for weeks on end. And that led to studying about Torah and how Torah fits in with Traction and how you can run your organization based on values, the values that are shared by the Kollel, the values that aren't just shared by Seiler Schindel. They're not just on the walls. If you want to work at our firm, you're going to live those values. You're going to live them at home. You're going to live them at the office. You're going to live them everywhere you go. This is the trick about the Kollel. And actually, it's the trick about Judaism, is when you miss those values, when you forget what they are, when you need a reminder, you can turn to the Kollel. You can return to your rabbis, wherever they are. That's where it lies. That's where it is. And then when you're living those values, nobody knows they're Jewish values. They're just values. And when you live them and you breathe them, look who you attract to you. Look at the people who are here today that are attracted to the families of the Kollel. That's an amazing thing. 300 people with shared values, dining together, living together, and learning together. That's what I've gotten out of the Kollel. So to all my friends up here and out there, thank you very much on behalf of myself and our firm. And we'll see you next year when the next folks are nominated. Thank you.
Scott, if I would have known, I would have given you the bigger slot. I'm going to call an audible here. We started the program late. Sunset Shkia is coming up. It's 8:30. Shkia is at about 8:58. If there's anybody in the room here who has to go daven mincha, please leave, do so, and come back in when you're finished. We're going to go ahead with the program and honor the Kinyan Masechta group. I presume some of the Kinyan Masechta members also have to daven mincha. We'll get a photo op later. I know you want to see the video. Your call, Shkia. We're going to continue with the program. That's my audible. We'll have a presentation, a photo op for you soon. Listen, we live what we teach, right? You could be in the middle of an amazing dinner. Sunset's coming. You got the evening prayers. We got to go daven. But I davened already, by the way. So and these guys probably also did. So just so you know. To introduce this next group, Kinyan HaMasechta, I'd like to call upon a dear colleague of ours, Rabbi Yossi Lowinger. He joined the Kollel recently, less than a year ago, from Chicago. His tremendous impact so far. And I'd like to call Rabbi Loewinger to introduce our next group, the Kinyan Masechta group.
Boy, it's good that Rabbi Goldberger explained to me what just happened, because if I didn't know better, I think I just saw half the place walk out before my speech. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Scott mentioned that he walked into the Kollel for the first time, and he saw a bunch of people yelling at each other, and it was not in English. I'll tell you a story that happened once with me. I was once studying, and a while ago when I studied, I used to like singing it while I would study. I'd be reading from the Talmud, and I liked to sing the words. And I would sing pretty loud, sometimes at the top of my lungs. And I'm singing any song that comes into my head. It might not even be composed yet. I once even thought of actually taking one of those songs and using it. But the people next to me who were listening to me or not listening, they said, no, it's not a good idea. Anyway, so I was just sitting there studying and singing at the top of my lungs, and there was an elderly person there who came over to me and he says, okay, we got it. You think you have a nice voice. Now, can you let everybody else learn? So the truth is, the Kinyan HaMasechta program, every night when I walk in, I'm kind of like reminded of that story. There are people, they're so passionate about their learning, and it's so loud and so noisy that I sometimes get a sore throat trying to study with my chavrusa, with my study partner, who's right across from me. And I have to like yell on the top of my lungs just to let myself be heard. And it comes as a result of the passion that the members of this unique program exhibit. Now the truth is, the whole Kollel, really especially the Kollel rabbis, they exhibit this kind of passion every day. Every day, in the morning, they come in and they just have this incredible level of electricity and enjoy of the song of the Talmud. And it's an amazing thing to see. And it's something I appreciate every day that I get to see. So, I'm not going to be long. I'm going to keep this short, but it's something which we really appreciate in the Kollel, having the Kinyan HaMasechta program, and everybody who comes in, and everybody who has the kind of interest and excitement in learning. And we appreciate that every day. And with that, I'm going to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Please turn your attention to the screens for a video presentation about Kinyan HaMasechta.
And bring him to the cheder, where he licks the honey off the letters of the Aleph Beis.
Mazel Tov, Rabbi Goldberger, Mazel Tov, Rabbi Shlomi Rothstein, Rabbi Yehuda Palter, and all of Bnei Chabura, and welcome to Kinyan HaMasechta.
But as the boy grows older and Gemara leads his day, that passion for his Torah learning slowly fades away. For he struggles with each sugya, and he tires from despair. If Gemara is so challenging, doesn't even pay to care.
So why does this work? And I believe the answer is that really Torah, Gemara specifically, is very, very sweet and enjoyable. Problem is that sometimes in life people don't get to that if you learn too fast. And what we try to do every night over here, slow and steady, and making sure we get it clear and review it, it's the enjoyment of the Torah that really gets right into your heart, that you connect with, that really just pushes you that I got to come back tomorrow for more.
I was at a friend's wedding in Baltimore, and I actually met up with one of my rebbeim. He works closely with Rabbi David Newman, who had this idea. He started to tell me about the Chabura and how it works, and he actually was more telling me, you're going to start this in Minneapolis. This is going to happen.
Holding in something that you learned, or to at least jump back into something that you learned 8 months ago, I think only happens if it's a stated goal.
It's like you have this program, there's guys learning every night, there's food, there's excitement. Is there a membership cost? So of course the answer is that there isn't in terms of money, but there really is a membership cost. What I mean by that is that the membership for this chabura is the commitment.
There are definitely times that you come in and whether work literally ends at 8:30, 8:45 p.m. and I'm leaving, closing everything I have and running down just to make it in time for Shir, and my mind is 15 other places. Yeah, there's definitely times that it's challenging and a struggle.
We know we have to support our families, but the bottom line is, when 9 o'clock comes, that's really when our day starts.
And like my oldest son, Moshe, would come quick, you got to get up, 9 o'clock. That's definitely his chayvus of, my children pushing me, and they're all into it now, and they're asking me, what did you learn today? What did you finish? When is the next siyum? Because every time we talk about it, different ranges of the chabura and what we learn always come up.
Right, that you go and Shabbos morning, who could chazer? Yantif, you send out a text, who could chazer now? And that's something that you don't get just learning by yourself.
When we're going on vacation or we have other interests or issues, we take 10 minutes out of our half an hour or hour and we talk about those things.
So I think the enjoyment of the learning comes from the shir and the camaraderie that we have here together. And also the enjoyment comes from the pleasure of learning, the pleasure of feeling that you really know and understand the Gemara.
Almost like an extended family, actually. Like a lot of us are very, very close as a result of kind of this experience.
When you learn something and you truly, honestly know it, it's something that you have with you for the rest of your life.
I want to be pushed, and I wanted to have a steady schedule, and I just let it start, and I went day one, day two, we're still here today.
Rabbi Rothstein is a good motivator. It takes a good motivator to get us involved.
The joy that it brings to my everyday life is it's unparalleled.
We cannot thank the women enough, and they are a tremendous part of the success of this group.
I can't think of anything that I'd rather have my boys see than their father walking around with a Gemara all day.
Enjoy learning so much. It's not just something he has to do, it's something he wants to do and wants to be a part of.
The men in the Chabura are so motivated to learn, and they're so eager to chazer, and he'll be busy preparing for Kinei Masechta or thinking of brainstorming different ideas.
I think one of the greatest things about the Chabura is what a positive energy that it created.
Look around the room and there's so many different people from so many different walks of life, and we all feel the same connection to one another.
I can sit and learn as hours pass me by. And my Gemara now worn out, I could never be without, for I finally feel
To be able to own a Masechta is, I believe, everybody's dream. It's a dream. It's a dream to be able to own a tractate in Talmud, a Masechta, and Gemara. It's a dream. And we're here, and we're in the process of a dream becoming true.
I feel bad they didn't get to see the video, but that they could always see later. But luckily you're back in. Thank you so much for making due time. If you didn't glean from the video, one of the most impressive things about this group of guys is that every single night, when 9 o'clock comes, they drop whatever it is that they're doing, and they come and they learn without fail. When you dedicate your life to something, it's real. So, I wanted to do something a little bit helpful. You know, it may sometimes be hard with a lot going on at home to figure out what it is that's going on. What time is it? So we took the liberty of creating a clock for every one of the members of the Chabura. This is no ordinary clock, however, because if you look carefully, instead of where the 9 Roman numeral would be, it says Kinyan HaMasechta, the name of the program. So this clock will be on their wall. Whenever 9 o'clock comes around, you'll know what time it is. Please come up. Ian, your job. Let's go. Where are you going to stand? No. Let's try one. There you go. Go for it. Thank you very much. Okay, you may have seen it walking in. You've seen the art, and I was the mean one trying to tear you away from it. But now I'm going to bring you towards it once more. We have the distinct honor of having a tremendous artist with us tonight, Rabbi Yonah Weinreb. I don't want to give it all away, and Rabbi Weinreb is going to share a little bit more about his art before. But one point that I want to bring out. A lot of art today is people taking what's sacred in society and tearing it down and making a mockery of it as a statement. Rabbi Weinreb does the exact opposite. Rabbi Weinreb takes what's sacred in the world, beautifies it, highlights it, and makes it something which is attractive for everybody to enjoy. After the program, after Rabbi Weinreb is finished, there'll be a time for everybody to go out and enjoy, peruse the art, purchase some art for your home. There's a variety of different pieces. The Kollel does get a percentage of the sales, like we said before. But for now, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Weinreb to introduce his art, tell us a little bit about what it is that he does. Rabbi Weinreb.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here in Minneapolis. Someone said, it's a small world. And I think in truth, it's really just very well run. You saw the presentation about Kinyan Masechta, and it's humbling to be here, to standing in front of an audience of people that are involved, committed to the community and the growth of Torah. The timing of the program, when Rabbi Goldberger first spoke to me about when it would be taking place, it was a tight fit. A week from this Wednesday night, my son will be getting married, and the young lady to whom he'll be getting married is the daughter of Rabbi David Newman, the founder of the Kinyan Masechta project. It's a very well-run world. I come from a small Jewish enclave called Brooklyn on the East Coast, and we have our version of Yiddishkeit and Judaism, but truthfully, when I come to communities like this, I see the vibrancy, the passion about what we're all about. I'll share with you a brief message about the type of work that I'm doing, hopefully taking and elevating its illumination in every sense of the word, taking something not just with the gilding, as was done in the Middle Ages, but to illuminate, to share, to teach, to elucidate the messages of Torah. What is Jewish art? How do we define Jewish artistry? Think about people who've been involved in the arts. Recently, an original of Picasso was sold for approximately $45 million. None of the work that we'll be selling tonight will be anywhere near that. Although the percentages of the Kollel would have been much more attractive as well. What is Jewish art? If a Native American creates a mezuzah, is that Jewish art? If a Hasidic Jew creates a still life, is that Jewish art? I think there's one more dimension that I'll explore to give us an understanding of what Jewish art is really all about. Think about the nations of the world, the cultures, the civilizations, the ones that are most involved in the world of art, drama, culture. And of course, the nation that will come to mind will be Greece. The Greeks were involved in art, culture, beauty, drama, the externals. And what was our holiday that most depicts the conflict of cultures? Hanukkah. It wasn't the struggle for the body of the Jew, it was a struggle for the soul. If they weren't out to kill us, they're out to take our values and make them Hellenized. But what was the difficulty we had with the art, the drama, the beauty, the culture that they envisioned? Think about the Torah. And the Torah has a statement, Zeh Keli v'anvehu. This is my God, and I will exalt him. What was the problem we had with art? Think about the edifices throughout civilization, Jewish edifices, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the Holy Temple, gold, silver, magnificent tapestries. That was art in its highest form. So what was the struggle with the Greeks? Why did we understand that their vision of art and beauty couldn't be tolerated, but the beauty that we invested in our holy vessels, in the buildings, in the temples, was holy indeed? Zeh Keli ve'anvehu. This is my God, and I'll exalt him. Rashi, the commentator which was mentioned earlier, says, what does ve'anvehu mean? I'll exalt him. There are a few interpretations. I'll create the sanctuary, a repository for the divine presence. Another method of understanding is that beauty is called noi, beautification, nun vav yud. Noi is beauty from a Jewish perspective. Nun vav yud is the exact opposite letters of Yavon, which is Greece, yud vav nun. The exact same letters in reverse form. And that's the difference. Yavon, the yud, the vav, and the nun, in descending order, takes the beauty that God has given us, but it's descending. It's art for art's sake. In Judaism, there is no such thing as art for art's sake. It's exalted, it's uplifted, it's refined, and it's illuminating. Nun vav yud, the elevation of the art, take it to a higher form, for a higher purpose. Imagine a mezuzah encrusted with gold, silver, diamond, emeralds, $10,000 on the open market. And let me see the scroll inside it, says the potential buyer. And he opens the scroll of this $10,000 case, and one part of one letter is missing. It's beautiful, but it's meaningless. Jewish art is art with a soul, with a passion, with the understanding that it's art not for art's sake, but towards a higher purpose. I'll share with you outside after the presentation some of the work, what goes into it. But in fact, I believe that everyone here is an artist. Everyone in their own right is taking the raw materials that God has given them, the abilities, the talents, the blank form. It's the parent giving over to their child. It's the Rebbeim, the teachers, who are taking students that perhaps hadn't had the opportunity to learn and infusing them with the breath of life, the passion for learning. It's the parent giving over to the child messages for living. It's art, but it's elevated. I've had the opportunity over the course of the many, many years that I've been fortunate to work in art, combining two loves, the love of art and the love of Torah. And the fusion of the two perhaps can be illuminating in many ways. I appreciate the opportunity to join Rabbi Goldberger, Rabbi Gibber, the members of the community here in Minneapolis to share some of the messages about the art. I hope you'll have an opportunity to listen to it, to share them with you outside. Thank you so much for listening. We should have a wonderful evening.
This concludes tonight's program. Thank you so much for coming. As we said, the art show is now going to be outside. There's an opportunity to purchase. Rabbi Weinreb will be available to answer any questions and talk about any of the pieces of art. There's a video outside as well that's going to be looping that describes some of what Rabbi Weinreb does. And just from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for coming. It truly means a lot to us, the support. We can't do this without you. We're doing a wonderful thing together. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for coming.